Is Balthasar Gelt any good? First, let's get this out of the way. He's an extremely strong character concept, instantly recognizable, and the voice actor is worth his weight in gold. Fortunately, not the result of transmuting the actor himself, because Gelt could probably do that with a snap of his fingers. That's just cool. In game terms, on foot, Gelt is just a guy, a wizard lord, albeit the Empire's only one, requiring 250 upkeep per turn with 3,688 health on Ultra, 20 armor, 25 missile resistance, 25 spell resistance, which is nice, leadership 65, speed 34, and for physical combat, where you least want him to be, melee attack 34, with an attack interval of 4, medium splash target size, and a max of 5 entities damaged. Melee defense is 38. Weapon strength is an even 300, divided between 210 base and 90 armor piercing, and he has a charge bonus of 30. In sum, he might be able to slap around some spearmen or swordsmen, but he's a wizard. You're not expecting him to do more, and he really can't. On a barded warhorse, upkeep shoots up to 330, health becomes 3,796, armor rises to 50, speed is 78 base, and 108 charging speed, and charge bonus is 55. Mass is 1500 from 900 earlier, and he is of course a large target. Other stats are unchanged, but the huge rise in speed certainly helps. On Quicksilver, his legendary mount, upkeep only rises to 350, health rises all the way to 4,464, and almost everything else is unchanged except for 105 speed, charge bonus of 70, and mass slightly reduced to 1300. And that's flying speed. It's a bit less on the ground. Remember that, it does matter. But yeah, flying wizard. That's the charm. As a faction leader, the Wheel of Magic grants +2 hero capacity for battle wizards, grants -50% upkeep to wizard heroes, and all armies receive a flat +10 armor. Now, that may not seem like much, but archers go from 20 to 30, a 50% increase. With the tech tree buff, you could get a swordsman to 55 armor. Suddenly it's not bad. So this is a buff that increases in value with the size of your host. As a general, Gelt, by himself, merely breathing and being part of your faction, including Confederation, adds +2 recruit rank to battle wizards. He grants himself -20% wins cost for all War of Metal spells, and grants +10% missile strength to artillery units in his own army. Not handgunners, not huntsmen, artillery. War machines count, surely. Having gone through the blue line with France, I don't need to go through it here. There's nothing mysterious, but being a master of logistics is a good thing. It may not be Gelt's highest priority, but it is a good thing. Equally, the red line is the same as any other Empire general, and aside from rally and stand your ground, it's passive unit buffs for stuff in your armor. As with France, Sigmar's Ward and Hold the Line are available in the top line. Brass Lunged is a standard 25% increase to leadership aura size. It's not terrible, but probably not your biggest worry. Lore Master Lore of Metal is available at rank 9, and is of course very personal to Gelt in various senses. It provides -2 flat Winds of Magic to Lore of Metal spells, and -25% cooldown to Lore of Metal spells as well. Note that there is a minimum wins cost. Anyway, this is what makes Gelt truly stand out as a master of his lore, and is critical for the character. For the spells themselves, a massive amount of Gelt's kit, obviously. I'll sum it up like this. Searing Doom is relatively cheap for Gelt, on-demand bombardment that really hurts clustered opponents, and the secondary explosion effect is 100% armor piercing. Also, it's really nice overcast, and that's going to be a theme with his spells. Bogged Down Cavalry is a good target for this, where cavalry are poor targets for a lot of area of effect spells. Metal Shifting means that casting the little, cheap spells provides a direct buff to your side's melee damage for 13 seconds. Plague of Rust is all about letting your low armor piercing units shine for a little while, like Huntsman, by reducing the enemy's armor. Glittering Robe is a get off my lawn armor boost to your side. If the enemy's base damage happy, use and abuse. Gehenna's Golden Hounds is cheap and completely unreliable, but it's a vortex spell and can do you some good. Transmutation of Lead is a gigantic debuff to enemy forces when cast, and may not help you kill them faster, but they'll kill you a lot slower. Finally, Final Transmutation could be said to be Gelt's trademark spell, essentially anti-everything. You're not necessarily going to kill lots of stuff with it, but you're going to hurt things that may otherwise be very difficult or annoying to hurt, and that's a capability that complements your precision fire and your artillery. For Gelt's unique line, which rather matters or else he'd be just a squishier Chaos Mage, starts with Golden Face Mask, which adds plus 20 armor to himself. It doesn't sound like much, but Gelt starts off as a squishy mage like any other, so being less squishy does help. Also, his own army and faction buffs do affect him. So, even on Quicksilver, he's a constant target for arrows. Consequently, making the arrows less effective helps. Stronger Than Steel adds plus 9 armor to his own army. Now, if he's your legendary lord, that's on top of the 10 you already get, so archers would be 39 armor. If you're not against Thunderers, that'll hugely slow down the pace of enemy damage over the long haul. It's not enough, but it's deceptively good, too. New formulations. Now we're cooking with Akshi. Ammunition plus 12% for Pistoliers, Free Company Militia, Outriders, and Handgunners in Gelt's personal army, and plus 12% missile strength for the same. Now, what does this tell us? It tells us that at high level, Gelt needs to have pips in Pistol Corps to take proper advantage of this. Don't just catch up to the other guy. Blow past him. Additional Orb of Sorcery grants plus 20% ammunition to Luminarchs of Hysh and adds plus 20% missile strength to both Luminarchs and Steam Tanks. Now, these units have their issues, but damage is damage. Renowned Scholar grants Wizards minus 20% action cost for map actions, and that's faction-wide. Confederation is A-OK for this. Hero capacity is plus 2 for Battle Wizards faction-wide, again, Confederation approved. This is on top of his own faction effect, so you can drown in Wizards, or drown Chaos in Wizards. Finally, Metal to Gold to Magic provides plus 10 to his own army's Winds of Magic reserve capacity, and plus 7% income from all buildings in the local province because Gelt loves gold. So how do his legendary items improve things? Cloak of Molten Metal gives you minus 10% to enemy hero actions, plus 5 melee defense, and since there's no neat place to put this, the mid-magic tree evasion skill added plus 5 by itself, and a tiny bit to your speed. Plus 10% fire resistance, 15% more missile resistance, 5% physical resistance, and a reduction in wins cost for Glittering Robe. As I've said, Gelt is an arrow magnet. He's the sort of lord you'd want to waste ammo with. This makes him better at it. Amulet of Sea Gold brings another minus 10% to enemy hero chance, minus 5 to corruption in the local province per turn, of big convenience in this game in particular. Plus 10% speed, which makes Quicksilver even Quicksilvier, plus 5 more melee defense, and 20% spell resistance, on top of what he already had. Finally, Staff of Volans grants plus 1 to Battle Wizard hero capacity, yes, again, as plus 1 to Wizard hero rank if recruited in the local province, grants plus 6 melee attack, yay! Minus 15% to miscast chance, and the active effect of the staff lasts 30 seconds with a 120-second cooldown, providing minus 50% miscast chance and 240% power recharge. So basically, this one item obliterates your concerns about Gelt not having greater arcane conduit. What this tells you is that Gelt is an overcasting machine at higher ranks. We come to, how do you use Gelt? Gelt is the game's original runaround and cast human caster lord, trying to keep those vampire counts honest. Starting on foot, he gets a lot more mobile, but remains relatively fragile no matter what. Speed, when you have it, and use of positioning and allies is very important. He can help in melee in limited circumstances, and I show this in my video, but charge bonus is what you want to rely on in that circumstance. Any kind of net or snare power could spell instant doom for him. On the other hand, he has spells and lots of them. His own spells are worth a lot, but being able to span wizards means that you can bring others along for particular purposes, like a life wizard to heal up steam tanks, so that's an option. Metal may have Final Transmutation, but it doesn't have a go-to vortex spell for mass devastation. Those have recently been tweaked for Warhammer 3, so take full advantage. And, of course, you get the Arcane Conduit if you have more wizards. In terms of your army boosts, your entire army becomes much more tenacious if the opposition isn't full armor piercing. But in terms of damage output, it's mainly about the artillery and the war machines, with more minor but still big boosts eventually to handgunners and skirmish cav. This includes Outriders with grenade launchers. These are your best tools for thinning the enemy out. You still need the melee in some form, but there's a case to be made that Gelt benefits from melee cavalry quite well. You need to pin things down or at least distract them, and that begins with Gelt himself. Cavalry, and especially heroes, will help a lot in this. The rest is whatever you're forced to use to keep the enemy honest, probably starting with spearmen with shields. If you have lots of ranged and magic, a blob that you can't kill efficiently in melee is fine. Gelt spells make Empire melee combatants hit harder temporarily, so the Lore of Metal helps out in that way as well. You just can't guarantee you'll cast something every 15 seconds or so to keep putting it up. At least not until you get that staff. The weaknesses are clear. Gelt can't tank more than a little for himself, so he needs captains and warrior priests to do it for him. Wizards will not tank very well. Witch hunters, that's not their job. So captains and especially warrior priests are helpful in this regard, since Gelt himself cannot raise melee attack in battle. Priests can. It's a big deal to him, so make the pairing happen. While buffed, Hellstorm rocket batteries can truly devastate. Gelt is a blob destroyer by himself too, just not as conveniently as some cases. So recognize these weaknesses and work around them. A smattering of melee cavalry to rout or crumble the remaining elements can end a battle and put a bottom line on friendly losses, including to friendly fire. Or, at times, you just roll those proverbial dice and use Gelt's magic in risky ways that damages your own troops at times as well. Some sacrifices must be made. It's a tabletop thing. On this note, consider Flagellants as a dirty trick. Flagellants with 19 armor and fighting debuffed opponents might last longer before they break, or, with Glittering Robe upgraded, they might have 79 armor. Wouldn't that be something? There are many possibilities playing Gelt, but in the end, he's a magic guerrilla warfare lord using guile, trickery, and lots of speed to draw the enemy into kill zones. That's how you keep him from being eaten by a Terrorgeist, so he can turn back and transmute Graveguard into eternal statues. In and out, damage at ranged, then clean up with whatever you can scratch. That is the way of Gelt. At the very least, try not to be defeated with a single wind of magic remaining in the reserves. Make his presence felt with lots of damage inflicted. Take care, and have fun turning the enemy's worth in gold into veritable lead.